Have you ever noticed how something that promises comfort can leave you feeling more broken than before? It begins quietly, a moment of boredom, loneliness, or stress. Your mind starts whispering, "It's not that serious, everyone does it." So you give in, telling yourself it's harmless, something to help you relax, to feel a little bit better. But the moment it's over, the silence hits. A silence that feels heavier than guilt, deeper than shame. You try to shake it off, to move on with your day, but something inside you feels off, as if your spirit just exhaled and lost a piece of itself. That emptiness is not random, it's not your imagination, it's the quiet cry of your soul, a part of you that knows you just reached for comfort in the wrong place. You see, sin never walks into your life shouting. It whispers, it offers relief without cost, but always sends the bill later. And what it takes is subtle. Your peace, your focus, your confidence before God. That's why, after every moment of weakness, you feel that hollow ache deep inside. Not because God has left you, but because you momentarily stepped away from His presence, and that brief distance feels like eternity. This message isn't here to condemn you. It's here to help you understand that feeling, to expose the hidden spiritual cost behind it, and to remind you that even in the emptiness, God is still reaching for you. So stay with me until the end, because what feels like guilt might actually be grace, and what feels like distance might be the very proof that heaven hasn't given up on you. It starts small, a quiet moment when your guard is down. Maybe it's late at night, the world is silent, the lights are low, and your mind starts to wander. You tell yourself, just once more, it doesn't really matter. And for a few seconds, it feels like release. The tension fades, the noise stops, but soon after, something deeper inside begins to ache. You can't quite explain it, but it feels like peace has been pulled right out of you. You tell yourself you'll do better next time. You whisper a prayer, you ask for forgiveness, you feel a flicker of strength again. For a few days, you feel lighter, clean, closer to God. You think, maybe I'm finally free, but then it returns. That same pull, that same voice, and you find yourself back in the same place, whispering the same prayer again. It's a cycle, one that leaves you both empty and exhausted. The truth is, the body craves what the spirit rejects. Every time you give in, you satisfy one and starve the other. And the more you feed the craving, the more the craving demands. It's like drinking salt water, the thirst never ends. This is why so many people live in quiet defeat. They worship on Sunday, but feel distant by Monday. They smile in public, but feel hollow in private. They're fighting a war inside that no one else can see. But here's the part most people don't realize. That battle isn't proof that you're a failure. It's proof that your soul still knows right from wrong, that your spirit is still alive, still fighting, still refusing to give up. Every time you feel that guilt, that sadness, that emptiness, that's your heart reminding you, this isn't who you are. You weren't made to live in cycles of false comfort. You were made to live in peace, real peace. The climb starts here, the moment you recognize that the thing you thought was helping you cope is actually the thing keeping you spiritually weak. Every time we chase comfort in the wrong place, we're not just breaking a rule, we're making an exchange. Something leaves us, and something else takes its place. It happens quietly. You won't feel it in your hands or see it in your reflection. But deep in your spirit, something shifts. You give away peace and receive confusion. You trade strength and receive shame. You lose stillness and gain noise. That's why the emptiness afterward feels so heavy, because it's not just emotional, it's spiritual. The truth is, sin never gives without taking more. It promises you release, but demands your peace as payment. And once that peace is gone, the world feels different, colder, distant, quiet. You open your Bible, but the words don't speak the same way. You try to pray, but your mind is foggy. You stand in worship, but your heart feels disconnected. You know God is there, but something inside you feels out of tune. That's not because God left you, it's because your spirit stepped out of alignment with Him for a moment. Imagine a musician playing a perfect melody, then suddenly, one string slips out of tune. The sound is still there, but something feels wrong. That's what happens when you give your spirit to temporary pleasure. You were never created for emptiness. Your body can be satisfied for a moment, but your soul cannot be fooled. It knows when it has settled for less than what it was designed for. And that's what that hollow silence is. Your soul saying, this isn't real comfort. But here's something powerful. That emptiness isn't punishment. It's mercy. Because it means your conscience is still alive. God is still allowing you to feel what distance from Him feels like. Not to shame you, but to draw you back. The pain of conviction is proof of life. It's the sound of heaven saying, you still belong to me. So don't mistake emptiness for rejection. It's an invitation, a call to come home before the silence becomes normal. You think you're in control. You tell yourself, I can stop whenever I want. You convince yourself it's harmless, a personal choice, a private thing, nobody's business but yours. But over time, that small decision starts making decisions for you. You begin to notice it, how your thoughts wander more easily, how your focus slips, how your peace fades faster than before. You try to pull away, but something pulls harder, and the more you promise, this is the last time, the more the temptation seems to grow stronger. That's the deception, the illusion of freedom in something that's slowly taking it away. Because every habit that rules your emotions, your thoughts, your time, isn't a habit anymore. It's a chain, a quiet chain wrapped in comfort. You think it's helping you cope with loneliness, stress, or pain, but it's actually keeping you trapped inside them. The enemy never uses loud chains. He uses soft ones that feel good enough to keep you from noticing you're bound. But here's the truth. You are not weak because you struggle. You are strong because you still feel the fight. The moment you begin to feel conviction, that tug in your spirit that says, this isn't who I'm meant to be, that's the Spirit of God inside you, refusing to let the darkness win. You haven't lost control. You've just been tricked into thinking you can fight it alone. And that's the difference between guilt and grace. Guilt says, you've failed too many times. Grace says, you can't win without me. But I haven't left. That voice that tells you you'll never change. That's not God. That's the enemy, trying to turn conviction into shame, because shame keeps you hiding, while God keeps calling. And every time you whisper, Lord, help me, even if it's for the 100th time, He still hears it. He still comes running. He still believes you're worth saving. So no, you're not powerless. You're just learning the truth about power. That real freedom doesn't come from trying harder. It comes from surrendering sooner. Everyone thinks that emptiness means failure, that it's proof God has turned away, proof that you've gone too far, proof that your prayers no longer reach heaven. But the truth is the complete opposite, that emptiness is not evidence of God's absence. It's evidence of His presence, still working in you. Because if your spirit were truly dead, you wouldn't feel anything at all. There would be no guilt, no sadness, no ache, just silence. And silence from the soul is far more dangerous than conviction. The reason you feel that deep ache afterward is because something sacred in you is still alive enough to feel the distance. Your heart still recognizes when it's stepped away from peace. That pain in your chest, that quiet heaviness in your thoughts, that's your soul whispering, I miss him. You see, guilt is what the enemy uses to push you away. But conviction, that deep discomfort that calls you back, that's a sign of grace. It's not God punishing you, it's God reminding you, you're still mine. Think about that for a moment. The very thing you thought was proof that God gave up on you is actually proof that He hasn't. That ache after the act, that's mercy. That moment of regret that stings your heart, that's love refusing to let go. If heaven had truly abandoned you, there would be no resistance left inside. You would sin and feel nothing. You would drift farther and farther, never looking back. But the reason you still stop and ask, why do I feel so empty after this, is because heaven still has a claim on your life. God's Spirit inside you doesn't allow you to make peace with what destroys you. That's why sin feels heavier over time, not because you're worse, but because His presence inside you grows stronger, and the closer you get to light, the more the darkness burns. You think you've disappointed God beyond repair, but what you're feeling is the exact opposite, the hand of a father who still refuses to let you go. He's not watching you with anger. He's watching you with grief and love, the kind of love that follows you into your darkest moment, not to expose you, but to rescue you. Do you remember when Adam sinned in the garden? The first thing God said wasn't, how could you? It was, where are you? That's what conviction sounds like, not accusation, but concern. Not "you're condemned," but "where did you go?" That same voice still calls your name today, not to shame you, but to lead you home, because no matter how many times you fall, he still sees the version of you that he created before the world ever told you to hide. That emptiness you feel is a sign that your spirit still recognizes home. You've just been living in a foreign feeling for too long, and the longer you stay in that emptiness, the more you forget what peace actually feels like. But here's the miracle. The moment you return to God in honesty, peace rushes back faster than you can imagine. He doesn't make you wait days or weeks for forgiveness. He doesn't sit in silence to punish you. The very instant you whisper, "Lord, I'm tired of this," His mercy meets you there, because grace doesn't wait for perfection, it runs toward repentance. So no, the emptiness isn't your enemy, it's your signal. It's heaven's way of saying, you've been feeding your flesh, but starving your soul. And that ache, that's hunger, spiritual hunger. It's your spirit saying, feed me with prayer, not escape. Feed me with the word, not fantasy. Feed me with truth, not illusion. Every time you ignore that hunger, the emptiness deepens. But every time you respond to it, you begin to heal. That's why your healing won't begin when you never fall again. It begins when you stop running from the voice that calls you after you fall. You've been looking at this struggle as a sign of weakness, but what if it's actually a sign of God's faithfulness? Because He hasn't let your heart grow cold. He hasn't let you feel comfortable in the wrong. He hasn't let you stop caring, and that means there's still a battle being fought for you, and you're still worth fighting for. You may have fallen 1,000 times, but God has been there 1,001, and that extra one is what grace looks like. So when you feel that deep emptiness again, don't run from it. Listen to it. Let it remind you that your soul still longs for something only God can fill, because that hollow feeling you hate so much is the birthplace of change. It's the space God leaves open just wide enough for His love to rush back in. So now that you understand the emptiness, what do you do with it? You don't run from it anymore. You face it. You let it speak. Because the moment you stop hiding from the silence is the moment it stops haunting you. That feeling of emptiness isn't a punishment, it's an open invitation. It's God's way of saying, you've seen what the world can give, now come see what I can. He's not asking you to be perfect, He's asking you to be honest. You don't have to clean yourself before you come to Him. That's His job. You just have to come. Because grace doesn't live in perfect hearts, it lives in surrendered ones. Every time you've fallen, God has watched you with compassion, not surprise. He already knew the battle you'd face. He already saw every tear you'd cry afterward. And He already prepared a way out, not through willpower, but through relationship. Because this isn't about control, it's about connection. The reason you keep feeling empty isn't because you're weak, it's because your soul is starving for connection with its Creator. You keep feeding the symptom while ignoring the cause. You're craving intimacy, not stimulation. You're craving love, not release. You're craving meaning, not momentary escape. And the beautiful thing is, God already knows that. He knows how the human heart was built, how it longs for touch, for love, for safety, and He never condemns that longing. He simply calls you to bring it to Him instead of the world. That's why every time you fall, He still whispers, I'm here, come back. He doesn't look away when you feel ashamed. He looks deeper, past the mistake, past the weakness, right into the wound that keeps bleeding. And He says, let me heal that too. Maybe you've been trying to change by yourself. You delete things, you set boundaries, you promise, you pray, but you still feel the pull. And you wonder, why can't I break this? It's because freedom doesn't come from distance, it comes from dependence. You can't run from the temptation. You have to walk closer to the one who breaks its power. Every time you pray, instead of giving in, that's victory. Every time you pause, breathe, and whisper, God, I need you right now, that's victory. Every time you fall but still return to His presence, that's victory too, because freedom isn't the absence of struggle, it's the presence of grace within it. So don't measure your progress by perfection. Measure it by persistence. If you're still trying, you're not failing, you're fighting. And heaven sees every small win that no one else notices. The quiet moments when you resist, the nights you pray instead of running to distraction, the mornings you wake up and decide to keep believing. All of that is proof that the Holy Spirit hasn't left you. He's training you. The day will come when that urge loses its grip, when peace replaces shame, when you look back and realize the emptiness that once broke you became the very space God filled with His presence. That's the road to peace. It's not a straight path. It's a journey made of stumbles, prayers, and second chances, but it leads somewhere beautiful. It leads back to the garden, the place where you can walk with God again without hiding. So right now, take a deep breath. Don't focus on the fall, focus on the return. Because the Father you keep running from is still standing where you left Him, arms open, ready to restore the parts of you that sin couldn't keep. And when that emptiness tries to visit again, whisper this prayer: Lord, fill the empty places in me with your peace. Say it every time you feel weak. Say it when you feel far. Say it until that sentence feels like breathing. Because one day you'll realize the silence that once felt like punishment was actually God's whisper saying, I'm still here. I never left. If you've made it this far, that means something inside you is still searching, still reaching, still hoping that there's a way out of this cycle that keeps breaking your peace. And there is. The truth is, God never stopped believing in you. Not after your first mistake, not after your 100th, not even after the ones you can't forgive yourself for. He still calls you by name. He still waits in the same quiet place you keep running from. And every time you return, even trembling, even broken, heaven celebrates. That's the love of a Father who doesn't count your falls. He counts your returns. So tonight, when the silence comes, don't fill it. Listen to it, because somewhere inside that silence is His voice, softly saying, I'm still here, and I'm not leaving. Type this in the comments if this spoke to your spirit. Lord, fill my emptiness with your peace. Let that be your public declaration, not of perfection but of surrender. And if this message reminded you that grace is still real, share it, because someone out there feels the same emptiness you once felt, and this might be the voice that brings them home. Take a deep breath, close your eyes, and rest knowing this: you are not too far gone, you are not unloved, and no matter what you've done, you are still worth saving.